It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Shenadoah assistant track and field coach for sprint and jumps, Asia Hart. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me today.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get involved in coaching college track and field?
Yeah, so I actually didn't really know this was the direction I was going to go when I was a college senior. One of my mentors in the sport, Jim Vericamp, who's a director at University of North Dakota, he suggested that I become a graduate assistant. And pretty much what that is, you can go to school and get a master's degree, and you can also kind of coach on the side and kind of figure out if this is something that you want to do. So I was just looking at graduate assistant jobs, and he kind of just suggested, like, go for it. Like, let's see, it's only 2 years. And here we are. I'm starting my 4th year, and I've kind of just stuck with the coaching. So he's a big part of me getting into coaching.
What was it like as a track and field player at Queen's University?
Yeah, I would say it was a really great experience. When I was there, the team definitely went through some changes. I want to say when I came in about 2014, we were doing really well, like the conference level, had a lot of success there. We were occasionally getting people to nationals. And then I feel like by the time my junior year came around, we really kind of hit our strides and were gaining more national attention. We were starting to become like a top 25 team, eventually top 10 team. And now I would say Queens is definitely one of a D2 powerhouse in the country.
What were some of your accomplishments at Queen University?
Yeah, so while I was at Queen's University of Charlotte, I was doing the sprints, and then I also did the hurdles for the track and field team. I broke a few records. I can't remember all of them, but mainly in like the 400 hurdles, short sprints, things of that nature. So definitely getting to break those kind of records, and especially the relays were a lot of fun. So I think kind of just putting everything together really was like the highlight for me as an athlete there.
What was it like obviously breaking the records at Queen's, and are the records still broken or do you still hold them?
Yeah, as far as I know, I do hold still a few of them. It was definitely shocking when I broke them initially, because every time you run, you never really think like, oh, I'm about to break this record, like it's gonna happen. I feel like when I run and I see the time up on the leaderboard or the screen, I'm like, oh, I really just ran that fast. And then it kind of just like, it seems like, how did that just happen? So it's kind of like a shock in itself when it actually happens and you break the record. And it's just like you kind of cement yourself in history at that school that you were the best at that event, basically. So it's definitely a fun experience. And then having your teammates cheering for you is kind of like the icing on the cake.
Of course, how does it feel knowing that obviously there may be some people that have already broken your records, but then also there's some people that haven't broken your records, then there won't be?
Yeah, I think for me to break the records and to keep them, I think that kind of just shows myself like I really put in the work, and it shows, and it paid off, and that I'm able to still hold on to those records even with other recruiting classes behind me. It kind of just makes me appreciate the whole process and just know that like everything that I did and that my coaches did for me really paid off. And if an athlete comes in behind me and like breaks a record, that's even just better news for the program, because as long as we're still moving forward and we can keep bringing in great athletes and having a lot of success, that's ultimately what I would want to see that program have.
Of course, coming out of college, what was it like getting your first grad assistant job?
Yeah, I would say like that first job after you graduate college is always exciting. You don't really know what to expect. You're kind of just eyes wide open, excited for the opportunity. So I feel like I was just very excited to kind of get a change of pace. compared to what I was doing in college, a lot of part-time jobs, working in sports and things like that. So it was definitely exciting. When I was a GA, it was definitely a good experience because I got a lot of hands-on experience. I was implementing training plans for the athletes. I was helping with volunteering. I was helping with fundraising. I really got to be involved with the program and really help try and take it to the next level. So I know that being a graduate assistant definitely kind of showed me like I definitely could handle this if I want to go to the next level and become an assistant. I know that that job and that experience really helped prepare me, and just getting to bond with the athletes and kind of just making an impact on them is pretty much what kind of solidified me staying in coaching. You really can't get that anywhere else besides coaching, and that kind of is my motivation every day.
What was it like, obviously, during your time at Drury to see, obviously, 23 school records being broke?
Yeah, that was definitely a great year when I was there. I feel like coming in, I was kind of just fixing areas that I knew from my personal experience that I could help improve. One of them just being the mental aspect of sports, and then also just giving the athletes confidence. I feel like that goes such a far way when the athletes believe in you and they're like, yes, like if you believe I can do this, I can do this. So I feel like just having that confidence and really kind of just breaking things down for them and really just helping them through like the mental toughness aspect definitely helped that group of athletes break 23 school records and make a huge stamp in Drury's track and field progress.
What were some of your accomplishments during your time at Drury?
Yeah. While I was there, I will say the team was pretty small. So from a recruiting standpoint, definitely making the team bigger, getting a little more depth within the sprints, hurdles, and jumps was definitely one of the biggest accomplishments that I had. And then also just getting the athletes qualified for conference, because our conference, you have to be top 24 to qualify to go. So I think just getting more people within those event groups qualified to conference was definitely the first big stepping stone. And then for those few talented athletes, trying to get them in scoring contention or top three, or even winning a few conference titles, which ended up happening as well that year, was definitely the highlight.
What was it? What was the feeling like getting your first full-time coaching job?
Yeah, it was definitely exciting. Being a GA, I was putting in a lot of hours, but I was also going to school full time. So it felt like I really couldn't put everything that I wanted into it because I obviously was stretched a little thin. I was having to balance a lot of things, but being full time, I knew I had all day and everything that I can to put into this job. So just having that flexibility to only focus on the athletes, focus on the program, and really help try and make an impact is definitely like a highlight of being a full-time staff member.
What was it like when you came to join the coaching staff to become the assistant sprinting coach?
Yeah. Well, when I interviewed for the job, things were going well. I was like, I could definitely see myself here. I have family in the state, so that obviously helps. But it was great because I feel like the program was at a point where we were kind of trying to go to the next level, and we wanted to get the roster a lot bigger. And then we also wanted to just get more people competing at a higher level, whether that's at the top of the conference or qualifying people to nationals. So I feel like when I took this job on, I made that definitely one of the things I wanted to focus on was just the recruiting aspect, getting the team bigger, and then also having those talented individuals make it to the national championships.
What was it like, obviously, getting to work with the jumping and the sprinting athletes at Shandoah?
Yeah, it's definitely fun. Since I do coach the men and the women, the personalities are vastly different, but it's a good experience. It pushes me out of my comfort zone, having to coach the sprints and the jumps. I'm always trying to learn new things, talk to mentors in the sport, trying to figure out what I'm doing, how can I be doing better, and making sure that I'm putting my best foot forward for the athletes. So putting all of that stuff together for the athletes and just trying to figure out what they need and trying to coach the athlete and not necessarily the event. That's really what has helped me the past two and a half years that I've been here now.
Of course, how has obviously your collegiate time playing track and field helped you and competing in track and field helps you to where you are now coaching the sprintings and the jumps?
Yeah. So my personal collegiate experience helps me because I know what the athletes are going through. I've been on the starting line and like shaking in the blocks and like ready to fall over because I'm so nervous. So I understand what the athletes are going through. So I feel like that helps them, especially since I am younger. It's a little more recent, so I can't necessarily be like back in 10 years ago when I was doing this. It's a lot more recent. So they seem to trust me a little bit more in that aspect. But having that experience in being at Queens, which is such a powerhouse school now, I feel like it helps me set them up and be like, look, I've done this. Like I've competed on the conference level. I've had conference championships, been competing on a high level nationally. So it really, I think, helps them to know that someone's kind of been there and done that and they kind of know. And if I don't know something, I'm very quick to call up a coach that I know who can help me if I am falling short of something or I just have a question. But yeah, I think my personal experience has helped just to kind of get this group to compete at a high conference and national level.
Of course, what does a typical track and meet look like at Shandoah?
Yeah, so meet day at Shenadoah, it really just depends. We have a variety of meets. So we host a collegiate invitational at the beginning of January, and then we host a few high school meets as well. And then we host a national final qualifier right before indoor nationals at our indoor facility. So it really just depends like what meet you go to, but we always try and make it a great atmosphere. We're playing music. We want to have the crowd involved. So it's really just trying to get the community involved and making sure the student athletes are having a great experience. Their families can come down. We'll try and have like a barbecue or a dinner or something just to show our appreciation for everyone involved. So it's really about making it more of an experience rather than just going to a track meet for 10 to 12 hours. Everyone's running or jumping or throwing, and then we kind of just leave. We want to make it a fun experience. That way we can keep people coming back and kind of spread the word about track and field and get more people involved.
Of course, who are some of the teams that Shandoah faces in their conference?
Yeah, so we are in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. So some of the teams that we compete against are Bridgewater in Virginia, Washington and Lee, Lynchburg, Roanoke, Ferrum, Guilford, Virginia Wesleyan. And those are some of the major teams that we kind of compete against. And we're all pretty much between North Carolina and Virginia for the most part.
What's it like, obviously, competing against those Virginia teams and those North Carolina teams?
Yeah, it's a lot of great competitions. I feel like since we are in Virginia, we do have a lot of access to facilities, which is great because we don't have to drive like 8 to 10 hours to try and get a really competitive meet. We kind of have it right here in our home state. So that's a lot better, less wear and tear on the athletes from a travel standpoint. So having a lot of competition this close, it definitely helps us prepare, especially for conference. If we don't have to drive far, we can kind of compete against each other throughout the season. We can kind of see how everyone is progressing. That way, when we come up with a game plan for how we want to attack conference, we kind of already know, like, you've competed against these athletes. We know what we're up against. So I feel like it just really helps prepare the athletes. And I'm all about preparation. So the more prepared we are, the better we can come ready to go when it's conference time.
Of course, who are some of the teams in North Carolina that you compete against with Shenadoah?
Yeah, so some of the teams in North Carolina, it really just depends on the meet. We do go down to Mount Olive a couple of times for some better weather once we go to outdoor, which is always nice. Trying to think, Guilford is in North Carolina, so that's another good team that we compete against. And then it really just depends on the meet. Sometimes we'll go against other Division II schools. Sometimes we'll go against other Division I schools. It just depends on what time of the year we're at and what we're kind of looking to gain from that meet that we're going to. Are we trying to chase really fast times, or are we trying to just get some workouts in, figure out what we want to do, technically in races, things like that.
Of course, what is it like competing against those Division II schools like UML?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a good change of pace competing against other schools and divisions, like Division II or Division I. I will say most of our athletes can hold their own against any D1 or D2 student. So I feel like it's definitely just a really good change to be able to mix the divisions and have track meets where it's pretty much straightforward. I mean, the times don't lie. So if you're fast, you're fast. So it doesn't really matter which division you're in. And I feel like that's a really big thing that we push when recruiting, is that just because we're Division III, it doesn't mean that we're competing at a different level. It doesn't mean we're not going to competitive meets. It's really just about the experience that you want to have at our school.
Of course, as you talked about, y'all are Division III. What is it like, obviously, being able to, in track and field, play those teams that are Division I, Division II, versus just playing Division III schools?
Yeah, I feel like the atmosphere is definitely a big difference. Sometimes at the larger D1 meets, the atmosphere is a lot different. It's a lot more buzz in the air. It's a lot more hypeness going on in the crowd. So it's really just about kind of what you want to get out of the meet. I will say those bigger schools, they typically do have faster competitors. So that's always great for our athletes. So if they need someone to push onto a faster time, by all means, however we get there, we will gladly take it. But yeah, it's always great to just be able to have meets crossing divisions and not really kind of sectioning off each division and everyone kind of doing their own thing.
Of course, with Shandoah being a Division II school, but getting to play those Division I schools, what is it like, obviously, being able to possibly play your alma mater of Queens?
Yeah, it's always nice. I've actually been to a few meets where I've seen Queens people at, so I'm always trying to say hi, talk to the athletes. I still know a few people there, so it's always good to kind of see them. But yeah, it's great kind of just seeing how they're doing, how the program's progressing, and just seeing how different it is. I have graduated for like 3 or 4 years now, so it's a little bit different, but it's nice to see that the things that we put in place almost 10 years ago are still being followed through, if not being better at now. So it's great to kind of see the progress that Queens is making throughout the years.
What does a typical game day look like as the assistant coach for sprinting?
Yeah, so I do stay pretty busy during meet day. I usually start with the jumps first, and then once the jumps kind of wind down, the sprinting events are usually starting. So I usually just hop over from the jump runways and coaching those athletes to the sprinters. So I'll usually just check in on them, make sure we're going over our game plans, make sure that they're executing the races, and just kind of giving them that encouragement. Like, all the hard work has been done that week at that point. So now we just got to go out and have some fun on the track and see what happens.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes that are looking to play college track and field?
Yeah, so it depends. There's a lot of ways that you can be recruited. Social media is one. And then we have recruiting databases. We have recruit forums on our website that we use as well. We'll go to high school meets. We host meets as well. So there's a number of ways that we can technically reach out to prospective recruits. And once we kind of get that information from the athletes, like what major you want to do, what are you looking for in an experience, all of that information, we have a phone call and we kind of just talk about what school would be like here and what it would be like being an athlete on our program. So we really just kind of go through that. And then once we have our phone call and we kind of just talk about academics, athletics, what we have going on in the town, all of that fun stuff, if it's a great fit, then we kind of just keep moving on in the process. So we'll go ahead and get you applied to the university, and then we'll work on setting up an official visit or an unofficial visit if you're a junior. And then we bring you on down. You'll kind of see the university. You'll get to meet the team. They also have team bonding events at night. So that is a big hype event for the recruits, but they usually will just go to the game room or a movie theater or, just anything that college students like to do these days. And yeah, it's a great event. We have really fun with our recruit visits. We've had really good feedback from them, so we keep doing them, which has really helped our program. We've been able to grow a lot the past couple of years. So really just staying on top of the recruiting and making sure that we're creating a great atmosphere for potential recruits in the future is definitely something that we've put a lot of effort into.
What are some of the things that you look at in these recruits that, as a sprinting coach and a jumping coach, that you look at?
Yeah, so some of the things that I look for, I first look at academics and see what we're kind of working with academically. Since we are a private university, we do like to make sure that our student athletes have good academics. And if we are struggling, we do have resources available, but we do need a good combination of academic success and athletic success. So we do look for athletes that kind of have a combination of both. So that's definitely the starting point. And then from an athletic standpoint, it could be a range of things depending on what I need for my team at that moment in time. I'm always looking for sprinters and jumpers and hurdlers. So it really just depends on that year what I'm looking for. But it's not always just about how fast someone can be. It's about, are you coachable? Can I develop you? What are you working on now? Do you have a trainer? Like, there's a lot of factors that go into it for me to kind of decide, is this the place for you? Can I help you? Things like that. So I'm looking at a range of things, but if it was only as simple as, are you fast? Then we would have 1,000 kids on every track team. So
Of course, on the hurdle side, what are some of the key parts in hurdling that you look at?
yeah, for hurdling, it really depends. I would say flexibility is a huge thing that I look for. I look for people that can be aggressive and attack. The hurdles are great, but sometimes you got to get after it and you really got to attack the hurdles. And I can't have someone that's scared to fall or they're scared to hit the hurdle because it may not work out well for them. So really just looking for that athlete that is not afraid to get after it and willing to have fun with it. And they want that challenge because the hurdles, there's always going to be a new challenge, whether it's the guys coming from high school and we have to bump up the hurdles for them for the short hurdle race, or it's getting someone who's never hurdled before to hurdle for the first time. There's always a challenge involved with hurdles. So I think that's one of the fun things that I like about training hurdlers is just kind of testing myself, seeing how we can mold someone into being a top-notch hurdler.
Of course, what does the official visit look like for those prospective student athletes when they get to Shoreline?
Yeah, an official visit. So we try and include a lot of stuff. So you'll go on a campus tour with someone from admissions, and then you'll also meet with your admissions counselor just to go over your application, make sure your transcripts are in, and then any other questions that you may have for them. And then we also have you guys go to the dining hall. That way you kind of get a look at what the dining hall looks like, what kind of food we have. And then we also have practice that they come to. They also go to weight room. And then they will also sit in on a class with a host that we have on the team. So that's a good experience just to see like what the classes are like, how the professors teach, things of that nature. And then once it's nighttime and they're kind of free for the night, that's when they go and hang out with the team, go get dinner, go to the game room, have a barbecue. It just depends on the time of year what they do at night, but that's kind of like a good way for them to get a day in the life of what it would be like if they were to decide to come to Shandoah University.
Of course, when they come to Shenandoah, do they get to, obviously on the official visit, see the uniform that they'll be wearing?
Yes. So we have locker rooms at our indoor facility, so that is part of their tour. So we'll go up to the indoor facility. They can check out our track, our throws area, our jumps area. And then when we go down a hallway, that actually leads to our locker rooms. And we have all of our uniforms hanging up on hangers in the lockers. Is very tidy, very neat. And the athletes get to kind of see like, what do we wear on meet day? And we have 4 different uniforms. We have one for home meets, we have one for away meets, and then we have a couple for conference. So we have to kind of show them like, hey, these are our uniforms. This is what you could possibly be running in. Maybe they try the uniform on, see how they look in it, take some pictures, all that fun stuff. But yeah, the athletes, they will get to see pretty much everything that we have to offer, and they can kind of picture themselves and see if this is somewhere where they could be.
What advice would you give high school athletes looking to become college athletes?
Yeah, advice. Oh goodness. The biggest piece of advice I would give is for the prospective student athletes to really find that coach that they can really get along with and they're on the same page with what they want to accomplish in college. I feel like that's what made the difference when I chose Queens, is that I knew what I wanted to accomplish, and I sat down with my coach and I was just like brainstorming. I was like, well, what about this and this? They're like, yep, we can do that. So it's really about just being on the same page as the coach and figuring out like what you want to be able to accomplish while you are at school here, because I might be here forever, but you only have 4 years. So we definitely want to just make the most of your time here. So really just being on the same page and not being afraid to ask questions. That's the biggest piece of advice that I could give.
What advice would you give those college athletes that are going to want to play college athlete, be college track, and then go on to represent the country on the Olympic level?
Yeah, I would say for those athletes that want to continue to do track and field after college, you really just got to figure out a game plan. I feel like just having a plan and being able to execute it goes a long way. Depending on like what events you want to do post collegiately, we have track clubs available. If you're looking to work with coaches, you really need to have a conversation with them and be like, this is kind of my goal. Like after college, depending on what I'm running, I maybe want to continue to do this for a couple of years to see how far I can go. There's so many coaches in this business that are helping athletes go to that next level, that we are all really trying to just take this sport of track and field and really just expand it the best we can and help as many people as we can. So it's really just about reaching out to people and figuring out how you want to go about it. Do you want to stay here and compete, or do you want to go overseas and compete? There's a lot of ways to kind of get after it. So you've got to just have some people that you trust and just explain what you want to do after college.
Of course, what advice would you give those people looking to get into college coaching on the track and field side?
Yeah, I would definitely suggest the graduate assistant direction. I think it's a good trial run just to kind of see like if this is something you want to do. And if it's not, worst case, you got a master's degree out of it. So it's not like you're just doing 2 years and then like there's nothing out of it. Like you kind of have the benefit of that as well. But I would say that is definitely one of the best ways that you can get into it. And that will definitely help with like networking with people in your conference and then just with other people in the sport as well across the whole nation. And just having people at your fingertips that you can just call up and be like, hey, can I talk to you for like 15 minutes about something? So I think it's a really good way for you to get in the sport, especially if you don't really know how to get into it otherwise without asking people or working at a high school. But that's definitely one of the best ways to get into the sport.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Shandoah track and field program?
Yes, so our track and field program, our handles are at SU Hornets TFXC. And then my personal Instagram handle is Coach Hart with 3 T's at the end.
Thank you again, Coach Asia Hart, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Shandoah track and field program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Asia Hart, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.